Hello and welcome to Pixel Magic Tutorials. My name is GeekMan and today I'm going to be teaching you how to create vintage cinema title text in Photoshop CC 2015 or later. Now a couple of assumptions that I'm making. Number one being that you're working in Photoshop 2015 or later. If you're not, then some of the effects that I'm going to be teaching you how to do may not work. The second assumption that I'm making is that you're using Windows. If you're not using Windows, say you're using a Mac, then whenever I say hit the Control key on your keyboard, that means hit the Command key on your keyboard. And if I say hit the Alt key, that means the Option key on a Mac keyboard. With that out of the way, let's get right to it. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a brand new document. So hit Control N on your keyboard to bring up the new document dialog box, and we're going to name this Vintage Cinema Text. We're going to be using a width of 3840, as we always do, and a height of 2160. The resolution that we use will be 150 pixels per inch. We're going to be using 8-bit RGB color, background color, doesn't matter. We're going to be changing that. And I like to work in Adobe RGB 1998 and square pixels. So let's hit OK, and we now have our new document. Now, I'm going to be using a background that I created earlier, which is this background here, Vintage Cinema Title Background. Now, if you're interested in learning how to create a background like this, you can leave a comment below and I'll create a tutorial on how to do this if I get enough comments. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to be changing our background and foreground color to make sure that they're the black and white by hitting D on our keyboard. That will make the foreground black, the background white. So if you don't see black and white, just hit D on your keyboard and you've got black and white. Then we want to switch the color so that white is our foreground color. So hit X on your keyboard and you'll see right over here that white is now the foreground color, black is now the background color. So now that we have our foreground and background color set properly, we're going to switch to our text tool, and we're going to use the text tool to create our text for the titles. Now the font that I'm using for the main part of the title is going to be called Anchor-Jack Regular. I'll leave a link below to where you can download this font if it's a font that you want to use, but this effect can be used with any heavy or large size font. Works pretty well with this font, but any large font will do. I'm using this Anchor-Jack regular font at 200 points, sharp, centered, white, but we'll be changing that with our layer styles. So click anywhere on your document and let's put in our title text, which for me is going to be GeekMan. Then we're going to accept that, and we're going to switch to our Move tool by hitting V on our keyboard and moving our text to the center of our document. Let's actually make it a little bit lower than the center, somewhere about there. Okay, now we want to make the lettering evenly spaced. Now you do that by going back to your text tool and moving the text tool in between any letters, like so. Then you're going to hit the Alt key on your keyboard and use the left and right arrows to make the leading, which is the space between each letter, larger or smaller. So Alt, left arrow will make it smaller, right arrow will make it bigger. I like my text to be slightly tighter than most people do, but you can set it for any leading thickness that you want, whether you want it closer together or further apart. This looks good to me, so we're going to hit our check mark up here to accept that. And then we're going to do the following layer style to this text. We're going to start with a stroke. And that stroke is going to be a size of 6. Position is going to be center. The blend mode will be luminosity. Opacity is 100. Overprint is unchecked. The fill type is going to be a color. And the color that we're using is pure white, which is ffffff. Then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to put in an inner shadow. There'll be 2 inner shadows. The first one is going to be blend mode of normal. The color is going to be black, so that is 0000000. We're going to uncheck use global light, and we're going to put the angle at 135. Then we're going to do the distance of 13. We're going to do choke of 0, size of 5. And our contour is going to be linear. Anti-aliased will be checked. And noise is going to be 0. The next thing that we're going to do, if we don't have it already, is we're going to press the little plus icon next to inner shadow, and that's going to give us another inner shadow. And we're going to go to our second inner shadow, and we're going to change it to the following settings. We're going to make the blend mode multiply, and the color that we're going to be using is going to be 474747. The angle is going to be 135. The opacity is going to be 29%. Almost forgot about that. Sorry. The distance is going to be 27. Choke is 0. Size is going to be 8. And the contour is going to be the same as before. Linear, anti-alias is checked, and noise is going to be 0. After that, we're going to do a pattern overlay. Now, the pattern overlay is going to take a little bit of work on your part because it's not your standard pattern. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to change it to darker color. Opacity is only going to be 10%. And the pattern that we need is this one right here, which is called, well, no, that's not it. It's going to be noise 200 by 200. So I believe that this is noise 200 by 200. No, that's confetti. Driven snow, footprints. Where is noise 200 by 200? There it is. Noise 200 by 200. Now you can find this, if you don't see it, by clicking on this sprocket icon here, going down to texture fill patterns. Okay, you hit texture fill and you can append it, or you can hit OK and it will replace your current patterns, or you can hit append and it will just add it to the end. Okay, and then you just find it, click on it, and that is your pattern. You want to set your scale at 35%, and you want to link the layer, so you want it to be checked. After that, we're going to go to outer glow, and we're going to do the blend mode of linear dodge. We're going to do the opacity at 22. We're going to do noise at 15%. The color is going to be white. That is ffffff. Technique is softer. Spread is 0. Size is 43. Now the contour that we're going to be using is this stair step one, which is called rounded steps right here. We're going to make sure that anti-aliased is checked. We're going to do range of 50% and jitter of 0%. Next, we're going to put in a drop shadow to help it separate from the background. So we're going to do darken. We're going to have color of 0000000, which is pure black. The opacity is going to be 90%. Angle of 135 degrees. Use global light is, as always, off. Distance is going to be 40. Spread is 100. And size is going to be 6. The contour is going to be linear. Anti-alias is checked. Noise is going to be 0. And layer knocks out drop shadow is checked. Hit OK because we're done with that layer style. We can click on the little arrow to collapse that. And we can also get rid of the background if we don't want it by just dragging it down to the garbage. And there we have the actual text for our title. Now to make it look a little bit more like a movie title, what we're going to do is right up over here, we are going to put the word starring, just because we're starring GeekMan in this video. For the word starring, I'm going to be using a different font, and that font is going to be Bickham Script Pro Regular. Now, I'll leave a link in the description below on where you can find this font, but before you go to the font, you need to click where you want to write the font. Otherwise, it will change the font text that you've already put in, as you just saw. So click, and you want to put in the word starring. So now that we have the word starring in, we're going to change this font to Bickham Script Pro Regular. And then we're going to move it where we want it to be, and we're then going to turn it slightly so that it looks more like an old style vintage title for a movie. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit T for text, and then we're going to hit Control T for transform. And then we're going to hold down the Alt key and the Control key, and that will let us move like so. and transform our text to make it look a little bit more hand-drawn-ish. Hit enter once we like the way that it looks. Go back to your move tool with the V on your keyboard. Move it a little bit closer so that it's just about there. And then we're going to start adding in some layer style to this. So let's go to our layer effects, and we're first going to put in an inner shadow. And this layer shadow is going to start with being a multiply. And we're going to change the color to pure black. Make sure that it's 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. The opacity is only going to be 53%. We're going to leave the angle at -45. Use global light is, of course, unchecked. Our distance will be 9. Our choke will be 0, and our size will be 5. The contour will be linear. Anti-alias will be unchecked, and noise will be 0. Next will be a color overlay. For color overlay, we're going to make the blend mode normal. The color is going to be D, 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 D. We're going to hit OK. And we're going to make the opacity 100%. Then the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to give this a little drop shadow to make it stand out from the background a little bit more. So we're going to make the blend mode normal. The color is going to be all zeros again, so pure black. We're going to make the opacity 100%. The angle is going to be 45 degrees, and use global light is unchecked. We're going to do this distance of 16. We're going to do a spread of 5 and a size of 20. Then we're going to do the contour is going to be linear, anti-aliased is going to be unchecked, and noise is going to be 0, and layer knocks out drop shadow will be checked. We can hit OK because we're done with that. We can collapse this, and here we have our title text for a vintage cinema movie. If you like this tutorial, please leave me a comment below or subscribe. I'll be putting up new tutorials every Tuesday. And this is GeekMan signing off for Pixel Magic Tutorials.